It's always been a dream of my husband's to own his own business. So when we quit drinking in December of 2021, he quit with me. 3 months later, we started looking at alcohol-free options. And so my husband was digging in a little further and he goes, this alcohol-free movement is getting really big. Maybe we want to open up our own store. So we did some more digging and investigating and saw that it was rapidly growing. And so we decided to jump on board and opened up our own shop. And it was really scary because we didn't know what we were getting into and we had no model to follow.
Mhm.
So we just kind of done it on our own. And here we are 2.5 years later, and we're still open and enjoying every minute of it.
Welcome to the Sober Edge podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Terry Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion, learn the truth behind the alcohol myths, and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. Well, hey, everyone, it's Terry back with another edition of the Sober Edge podcast, and I am delighted to introduce you to my new friend, Marlys Aspinwall. And Marlys and I got to know each other at the Sober in the City event in Seattle, Washington, early in September, and I just knew we were going to be friends, right, Marlys?
Yes, exactly. When I met you and Sarah, I thought these are two people that I really want to get to know. So I'm excited to be a part of your podcast.
Yes. And I love that you're here and you have such an interesting business model. But I want to back up a little bit and talk about how this came to be, because you and your husband have a bottle shop and sober bar, which I am fascinated. I keep telling my husband, maybe we want to, we're in our mid to late 60s. And I'm like, maybe we want to do this. And he's like, maybe not. However, I want to know, in your alcohol-free journey, how did this come about that you decided to open this bottle shop?
Well, it's always been a dream of my husband's to own his own business. So when we quit drinking in December of 2021, he quit with me. 3 months later, we started looking at alcohol-free options. And so my husband was digging in a little further and he goes, this alcohol-free movement is getting really big. Maybe we want to open up our own store. So we did some more digging and investigating and saw that it was rapidly growing. And so we decided to jump on board and opened up our own shop. And it was really scary because we didn't know what we were getting into and we had no model to follow. Mm-hmm. So we just kind of done it on our own. And here we are 2.5 years later, and we're still open and enjoying every minute of it.
I love that. And one of the things that I think is so fascinating and exciting about your story is you did this very early in your sober journey. And same thing with me. One of the things that happened for me, Marlys, is that I went to nutrition school about 3 months into my alcohol-free journey. And that was intentional because I really wanted something to look forward to, something positive to focus on. I think for so many of us, one of the most daunting parts about becoming alcohol-free is, well, now what? Like, how do I enjoy myself? How do I connect with people? And your story, how do I connect with my spouse? And so I love that you went on this journey together and you are still on this journey together. So I love that you said he came along with you. So how did it happen that he decided to become alcohol-free at the same time as you?
Well, he probably was thinking on the same lines as me, that we've just, during the pandemic, we're drinking way too much. And I woke up one morning after an evening with friends, and of course I drank too much, and I just thought, I can't do this anymore. And wasn't sure if that was going to stick or not, because I've said that a million times, like many, we've said not during the week, only when we're with friends, or I'm just going to quit altogether, but nothing ever stuck. But there was something about that morning when I woke up. I knew that something had changed and shifted in me. And I just didn't want to feel this way anymore. And so I believe that Chuck was feeling the same way. He probably didn't have as hard of a time, or he didn't have as much of a drinking problem probably as I did, but I think he felt it was time for him to quit too. So he supported me and he got healthy with me.
I love that. Yeah. And my husband followed. So my husband is also named Chuck. We've talked about this, and that's fun, a fun connection. And he actually did not stop drinking when I did, but he followed 2 years later. And it's been really interesting because as I coach women toward exploring their own relationship with alcohol, one of the things that often comes up is, well, it's really hard because that's how my spouse and I connect, or I want to stop, but there's still alcohol in the house, or I can't possibly do this because my husband still drinks. And I think that I model one way and you model another way. And, the most important takeaway from this is that it doesn't matter what someone else is doing. I love this idea of asking for support versus permission.
Right.
Like we get to step out and do what works for us.
Exactly. Yeah. And when we decided to open up the bottle shop 3 months later, we hadn't really decided that we were going to fully quit drinking. But once we opened up the store and got into it and saw the people coming through our store, and we thought, well, we have to be the example. So if we're going to set this model, we need to be the one who, shows that it can be done.
One of the things I notice too is sometimes I'll work with women who have gone on for an alcohol-free coaching certification because they are looking for some guardrails, some accountability, a reason to stay connected in this alcohol-free community. And so I think that's such a powerful point, is that we can build all kinds of accountability, and having a passion around an alcohol-free business or some type of offering, as you mentioned, gosh, all of the connections just come flooding in, right?
They do. Yes. Yes. We've had people come in and say, I've been drinking too much. How can you help me? And when I get those customers that walk through the door, I just get shivers through my spine because I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. And so it's been exciting to see those people walk through the door and see the changes in their life. And for me, I did need that additional support as well. So I joined Sober Sis shortly after I stopped drinking. And to this day, I am still in contact with 8 other sober sisters, and we talk daily. And, we don't really talk alcohol anymore just because we're past that. But every once in a while, we'll decide that we're going to read a book, or we're going to, I don't know, hold each other accountable for exercising, or whatever it might be. And so it's just fun to have that connection and someone to lean on, even 2.5 years later.
It's really important. And I think another powerful part of that, Marlys, is that you're not just dependent on your husband.
Right.
Like, have another layer of accountability and support and people to talk to about your journey. Because you shared with me something, and I think it was when we were in Seattle together, that was really interesting and kind of painful, in that when you first started your pop-up, it was more of a pop-up rather than a brick and mortar. And you kind of received some nasty comments, or had some people that were really pushing back against the idea of you offering non-alcoholic beverages. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we started out just to get our feet wet and see what kind of response we would get from the community. And although mostly positive, there were, a handful of people who would walk through the market that we were in. And I would stand just outside of where we had our pop up and say, we're an alcohol-free bottle shop. We have alcohol-free beer, wine, spirits. And of course, you would get those little wisecrack jokes like, what's the point? Well, that's stupid. And I had to grow some thick skin, because those comments, I would just look at my husband and was walk away not saying nice things. And so I just realized that, yeah, not everybody's going to understand what this is all about. And hopefully one day they will, because I figure those people are the ones who probably have a problem, um, because they don't want to look at there's another way. So, yeah, I had to grow thick skin. So, and that stuff doesn't really bother me anymore because I've just seen where my life has gone and the people around me. So,
Yeah, you mentioned being an example and kind of leading by example. And I think that's another beautiful example because we get to show up and be authentic in our new alcohol-free life, regardless of what other people think about it.
mhm.
And we know there's a market for alcohol-free beverages. And so connecting to that audience is such a beautiful offer. And I just love that these places are out there. I'd love one to be in my small town. So, Marlys, I'm curious for people who are suddenly their wheels are turning and they're thinking, well, how did this all come about? So can you describe a little bit about your shop? It's called Kindred Spirits. So the first thing I'd love for you to do is tell us why and how you came up with that name. And then tell us a little bit about like the layout and how you connect with people, because I know there are listeners out there who are thinking, I've had that idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was another girlfriend who came up with the name. Her and I drank a lot during COVID together, her husband and my husband, and we were talking about opening up the bottle shop. And she's like, "Well, what are you going to name it?" And so she just out of the blue said, "What about Kindred Spirits?" And I loved it because I love the meaning of kindred, which is friendship, and then spirits. We're going to be selling spirits. So that's how the name came about. So from my girlfriend, but the layout of our store is we're about 1,200 square feet. We have on the outer walls, we have all of our products. And in the middle, we have our tables and where people can come in and have a cocktail. And we do offer some food. And it's just a place that people can come and not have to worry that there's alcohol around or watching people do certain things when they're drunk.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
I always say, when one of my stories in my head was, oh my gosh, if I stop drinking, I'm going to have to hang out with drunk people, and drunk people are really boring. And first of all, I think a lot of times when people have drank too much, they can be quite boring. They're repeating themselves, they're slurring their words, they're telling the same story, they think they're funnier than they are. And I love that you've created an atmosphere where that is off the table. And I think you mentioned to me that you can host about 30 people in your store. And so you also have shared with me that you have some special offers that you do each month to help people gather and to have sort of these ongoing opportunities. And one thing I'm curious about, because we kind of started talking about becoming alcohol free as a couple. So are the people that are frequenting your store, are they coming in as a couple, as a friend group, as just ladies, just guys? Who is your audience?
Well, we have a lot of couples that come in. I just had a gentleman who came in and by himself, and he was buying for his wife. So um yeah, I mean, it's a mix of a little bit of everything. So husbands and wives supporting each other. We've had girlfriends come in and have birthday parties in there. They just wanted to be able to go to a place that they didn't have to worry about the alcohol. We have people who just come in and they do some work at one of the tables and just a quiet time for them to enjoy a drink, an alcohol-free drink, and still work. So yeah, it's just a variety of people who come in. We have our regulars, and then we have a lot of customers that know about us here in the Pacific Northwest. So when they're this way, they're, intrigued by the idea. So they have to stop by and see what we're all about.
And one of the things I think that happens is in this sober community and alcohol-free business community, I feel like people are so connected. And, I've met authors and product purveyors and people who are offering experiences and other coaches. And there's just so many lovely people. And one of the things that I think really shines in this particular uh, arena is the hospitality aspect. And you and I had the privilege of seeing Martha Wright speak
Yeah.
and host a panel when we were in Seattle together. And she was the one who really introduced me to this idea of this is like the most beautiful thing people can offer because it makes the idea of hospitality inclusive.
Mhm.
And when we think about people in the wine world, sometimes we think like, oh, they're snobby or, they have a certain persona. And I believe from the outside, not being somebody who has a bottle shop or does a lot of my work around people that have products, but I feel like there's a different energy here because most of us are coming to this. It's a passion. It's a
Mhm.
mission-driven business.
Yeah.
Have you found that to be true, that the community is very welcoming?
Yeah, they have been. And when people walk through our doors, I want them to also just feel comfortable coming in and not feeling that they have to hide or pretend that they don't have a problem, but just come in and check it out. So, and Chuck and I, we greet each customer that walks in. We walk them through the store. Um, we tell them about, that we're a sober bar um, and what brought you in. Are you alcohol free? Just curious. So we try to make it that whoever walks through the door, it's inviting. It's not anything scary. And they can just come in and be themselves and know that they're going to be accepted for whoever they are or wherever they're at.
Mhm.
So that part I really love. Chuck's gotten, he does more of the buying the products, does all the books and all that kind of stuff. It's funny because when we first started the bottle shop, we just kind of fell into our own roles. And so mine was a social media aspect and all the events and whatnot. So the part that I love the most, though, is to be able to reach out into the community and talk to people. And I mentioned to you that Chuck and I have gotten involved in a local nonprofit that helps women and their children. And they have just received us and so excited that we're a part of them. And I feel the other way that they're letting us be a part of their whole big picture. Yeah, so that's kind of where I fall in helping out with Chuck with the business is that I do all the social media, I reach out into the community, and that part I really, really love. So
And what you're talking about here is really this is a relationship business.
it
And I think
is.
it is
It
a
is.
powerful part of this dynamic, which makes it so rewarding in all of the aspects. So how, and maybe Chuck knows better, but I'm sure you're aware of this as well, but how do you choose which products you're going to carry and have on your shelves?
Well, in the beginning, it was buy and see how it does. But we've become savvy enough to know now if we're considering a product, we ask for a sample.
Mhm.
And we sort of know our customer. And so we can say, no, it's not going to sell. And some of it's from past experiences as well. It kind of tastes similar or whatnot. So we sample first.
Mhm.
Or we'll take those samples too. And because we give free tastings, we let the customers sample those products that we're thinking about bringing in. And, that's a pretty good clue as to whether or not it's something we need to have in. So the big thing right now, though, is kava. And that is like selling off the shelf. We can't keep kava on the shelf. So,
Tell me more about kava. I think I have an understanding, but for my listeners, can you define
Mhm.
that for us?
So kava is grown in the South Pacific, and it's very popular down there. And they take, might get this wrong, but from the root of the kava plant, and it can come in a powder form, or you make it into a drink. So it starts out as a powder form, and
Okay.
then you can make it into a drink. It's very relaxing. It doesn't give you a high per se or whatever. Um, I enjoy one in the evening. It just kind of after a busy day, it relaxes me, but it doesn't leave me drunk or anything. It's helped me sleep a little bit better. I kind of think of it as like chamomile, a tea,
Mhm.
but kava is a little bit stronger.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, there are certain non-alcoholic drinks, or they fall into that category, and they have much of the same audience that are those herbal adaptogenics that we
Right.
see with those properties where you can feel a little bit more stimulated or a little bit more
Mhm.
relaxed.
Yeah, I call them the mood enhancing beverages.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you carry, because you call yourself a sober bar, do you carry any drinks that have THC or no?
Typically no.
Okay.
No. We wanted to stay away from that, and just mostly bring in, we have some that are CBD.
Mhm. But yeah, I mean, there are some, and it's important to define exactly what you are. And I love that you have sober bar as part of your designation, because there are some low and no alcohol spirits that are out there now. And I love that this is inclusive, again, going back to that hospitality, that someone who is choosing to drink less or doesn't want to drink a lot could have, if you're not sober, could have a low alcohol offer. And I think it's also
Exactly.
interesting to explore, like when my mother grew up in the Napa Valley, and she wasn't part of a winemaking family, but her and my dad lived there later in their life, and my dad became an amateur winemaker. My daughter is a sommelier, and so I've seen the wine industry from the inside a bit. And one of the things that we noticed is that alcohol and sugar content in wines went up and up. And so I love that we have this reversal of,
Mhm.
this no alcohol, low alcohol. And I will be a part of the low alcohol because I choose to not drink at all. But I think it's a also part of the offering for people to just get, curious and start to explore. So you also mentioned that you have some special offers that you do in your shop on the regular basis. I want to move up there and come to your shop because game night is my love language. And so like, I would be there every game night. But
Yeah.
I think it's so fun that you're looking for ways to engage the community outside of just show up and,
Mhm.
have a drink. So
Yeah.
tell us about these special things that your shop does.
So we do, paint and sips. So yeah. We've also done, karaoke night. We've done bingo. We've had, music. There's a couple of different bands that we've had come in and just play music. And, yeah, so I'm trying to think out of the box so that, it's not so much like all the other places in the surrounding area, like all the other wineries. So I'm trying to think a little bit outside of the box. So, at the end of, October, I'm doing a, woman empowering women alcohol-free event, and, I got inspired by that from, being at Sober in Seattle, and I've asked 3 ladies who are active in the, alcohol-free community here in the area, to come and speak, and so I'm really excited about that, and, we'll just see how many ladies show up, and I'm hoping that it's a packed out event and that, I'll have to move it to a larger location when I decide to do it next time. We've had a great response so far, so, it's not quite sold out, but I still have another 31 plus days, so
So exciting. I love that you're just hitting the ground running and trying new things and having fun with what's available out there. Because, again, like I said, the story that I had was that not only were other people going to be bored, but I thought I would be bored. What will I do? And we're
right.
offering a myriad of activities for people to do. And the other thing I think where you've really hit on something special here, Marlis, is that you are offering this alcohol-free alternative, but in a container that feels very comfortable to people. Going
Yeah,
to karaoke, going to game night, going out to listen to a certain band. And I think
right.
that's magic.
Well, and the other part of that is they can come as a family.
Mhm.
So, on game night, you know, bring your kids. You can come and have an evening together. more families, I think, are needing that time out and away from home and all the distractions. So they can come and do game night. And the other thing that we also do is local events. We had a folk life festival, and Chuck took our pop-up tent and went down, and he sold ready to go drinks. And people are just so surprised. And fortunately, that'll draw people here to our store. So yeah, so those are always fun to do.
So you've mentioned a little bit about kind of the location where you are. So you're in Richland, Washington, and that
Correct.
is southeastern Washington. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
How far are you from like the nearest big city?
That would probably be Spokane, which is about 2 hours away.
Okay. And what size, like how small a town is Richland, or how large a town?
So it's considered the Tri-Cities, but the Tri-Cities are Pasco, Richland, and Kennewick. And then there's some surrounding communities with that. But those are the three major towns, and about 400,000.
Okay.
So
So a mid-size city, which is great to know because I live in quite a small town. So our population and the neighboring population total is only about 50,000.
Okay.
So it's good that you're drawing. And I'm curious about Richland in itself. Is it what you're describing? I am picturing, and I have not seen your storefront, that there is maybe it's part of sort of the downtown that people might just stumble upon it. Is the location helping with the bottle shop?
Yes. So as you drive into the more main downtown of Richland, we're at the beginning of it, and we're on the main road going into Richland. And we have a sandwich board out front that shows our store, and they get free tastings or whatever they come in. And that has drawn a lot of people in.
Nice.
So yeah, we get a lot of traffic just being out here on the main road going into Richland.
That's good. Yeah, because there's a lot of marketing behind running a retail storefront and certainly getting the word out about where you are. So yeah, having a location that draws people is also very important. And so yeah.
Yeah. We got really fortunate. We looked at a lot of different places, and a lot of them, needed to be cleaned up or redone to accommodate what we were wanting to do. But when we found this location, we basically didn't have to do anything, which we liked because that was less money we had to put in. But we did have to set up our kitchen. So they didn't have a kitchen in it, but that was easy to do. So
yeah. So I'm curious, Marlys, I want to take you back to mid 2021. You've got this pop-up maybe at the market. You're thinking about making it a brick and mortar. Did you cast this vision, or has it been kind of surprising what has come from this venture?
Well, when we were at the market, Chuck and I talked about having our own brick and mortar, and we talked it, but wasn't sure if it would happen. And like I said, we looked around, not finding the right spot, and this just kind of fell in our lap. So we knew it was meant to be. I mean, our dream was now becoming reality, and very scary. But we stepped out on the limb, and it's been successful. So we're just really glad that we can offer this. And people are glad. I mean, people walk through our store all the time and just saying, they're just glad we're here. We've had people do happy dances, and I've caught some of those on video too. One gentleman came in a while back, and he said, "I feel like now I can socialize." And he goes, "It's been a long time." And his mom was with him when he came in, and she said, "You don't know how happy he is, because now he feels like he can go to family parties and have something in his hand that's nice, and a drink that he can consider an adult drink without having the alcohol in it." So yeah.
I think it was meant to be, for sure. So I'm curious, what has surprised you the most about this journey so far?
The friendships I've made. So I didn't expect that at all, but a lot of people I've met here in the community, I would have never met otherwise. And they've brought a lot of enrichment, I think, to mine and Chuck's life. So, being a part of the nonprofit that we're a part of, the people there are amazing and just have good hearts, and they're doing big work. And just to be a part of that is not something I expected at all. So,
It's so beautiful. And so I'm curious, what's next for Kindred Spirits?
what's next? Well, people keep asking if we're going to do another store. So I don't think that's in the near future, but there is in Pasco, there is a waterfront concert venue that is being built. Probably won't be ready for another couple of years, but they're bringing in a large hotel and a huge amphitheater. And like I said, it's right on the water. They're going to have multi-purpose storefronts with the housings above them, and then a market. And so we put our name in. We want to be a part of that and be in the market itself. The market is going to be a lot different than the type of market that we started out in. So if that opens up, when it opens up, we have our name in and we'll go from there.
That's so exciting. I love that you are continuing to explore opportunities and to think big.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely have to think big. Otherwise, it just gets stale. You have to think out of the box and just grow with the business. And because if you don't, then that's where probably people fail.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. Well, and I think, yes, part of it is having this passion-based business where it's not only feeding your wallet, and maybe it's not at this point, but not feeding your wallet, but it's not just about the money. It's about the experience and the connection with people and what you're giving back and what you're receiving and what your message is getting out there. And I think that is why I find so many people excited about being in this place where they get to show up and live their authentic life, and it bleeds over into their business. It's this beautiful example of, being comfortable in your own skin and then creating something out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the good news is that the alcohol-free movement is not going away. So it's just going to continue to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And as we've done this business, we've just seen it grow just within our area. I want to reach out more to our restaurants and local social establishments to start bringing in more alcohol-free beverages, because I've found that not many do have done that yet. So they might, but it's just purely juice. And to me, that's a kid's drink. So
yes. And you and I had that conversation, and I appreciate you making that distinction, because there is this beautiful spirit-free industry that is part of the cocktail world that sometimes we want to just make a mocktail that looks like soda, lime water, and juice, like you said, and there is a great difference, and there's a place for that, of course, but when we are celebrating and elevating the experience, there's something really fun about making cocktails and the ritual of actually having the cocktail shaker and having the different flavors and playing around with the flavor profile. That's a very adult fun experience. And to be able to replicate that is part of, I think, what you and I talked about that you love to offer.
And the other surprising thing that I've become a bartender. I've learned so much about making drinks. And that at first I was real nervous about it. I serve it to a customer and they're going to hate it. They're going to hate it. And they're like, oh, this is great. This is great. And I'm like, okay, there's potential for me then, I guess. But yeah, I've become a bartender, and so is my husband. So he even does a mean charcuterie board now. When he first did the charcuterie board. It's like, honey, no. But now he's getting back.
A true entrepreneur wearing many
Yes.
hats.
Yes. So, in those aspects, we've grown a lot because, I mean, I never knew what a bitter was until I got into this business. So yeah, it's totally been a learning experience and making drinks. I'm redoing our menu right now for the fall and bringing in more fall type drinks. And it's just kind of fun to skim through those and figure out what I'm going to bring. And so, yeah, that part is really, really fun.
Oh, yes, it sounds fun. So, Marlys, if somebody has been excited by this conversation and they're thinking, "Oh, I've been thinking about that," what are a couple of pieces of advice that you would share for somebody who is considering this? Opening a bottle shop or having, a pop up and serving alcohol-free drinks and trying to sort of create a business around this place
Right.
where people can come and gather.
Right. Well, like I said, there's not a lot of models out there. Although there's becoming more and more. And if you're considering it, give Chuck and I a call and we'd be happy to walk you through some of the things that we've learned or say, no, don't do a certain thing, whatever. So, yeah, we had one lady come in to our store last summer and she was thinking about opening up a bottle shop and it's a community. It's just like, I don't feel like I'm competing against her at all. And she's probably 4 hours away from me, but I don't feel like I'm competing. And if I can help her succeed in her business, then that's what we want to do. So if you're considering it, give it a lot of thought because being a business owner is not for the faint of heart. You put in a lot of time and energy but the rewards in this business, like I've shared, have been amazing. I just saying that I'm getting chills right now because yeah, have been amazing. There's one gal that I still think about a lot. It's been over a year and she came into our store and she said, "You have saved my life." And she starts crying. And I haven't seen her since. And so I just pray for her all the time. I mean, a year later, I'm still praying, and one day she'll walk through the door again. So I don't know what happened. I just pray that she has an alcohol-free life or whatever her addiction was. But she was just so excited to be at our store.
How special that is. And it shows that the work you're doing is powerful work. It's beyond just having a retail business. It really is that labor of love and that labor of service, that ability to give back. And I know that you had shared with me that you had recently retired and suddenly you're thrust into a business that
Right.
is far from retirement. I mean, anytime
Yes.
retail, there's hours, there's emergencies, there's random things that pop up, and it really does take a lot of time and dedication. And so I think it's so cool that you're getting the response that is feeding your soul, because I think it's such important work that you guys are doing. And I'm so grateful that you and Chuck are doing this work in the world.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. It has been really a journey of being grateful. So, one of the things that um I lost when I was drinking was my relationship with God. And now that I'm sober and I've rebuilt that relationship and everything that's happening around us, I know is because of him. He has set us on this path. There was a purpose for it. Because just one day waking up and deciding I can't do this anymore came from something higher than me. Because how many years did I say I was going to stop and I never did? And so, and 3 months later, we opened our doors. So, yeah, so that came from a higher place than just my willpower or whatever. So,
Yeah, I have a similar journey, Marla. So I can so appreciate that. And I think that when we step into this place of changing our relationship with alcohol and choosing to do the work that it takes to live this abundant life, that it's not just a behavior change. It is this beautiful opening that serves us. And part of that serving is that spiritual connection, whatever that looks like for someone. It
Right.
may not be
Right.
God, but I think there is so much that is within us that then we get to live that out. And that beautiful energy in the world is what draws people to us. It's what creates the connection that you and I were able to make. And the fact that we're having this conversation and talking about this beautiful gift that is in front of us. And it's not a place of giving up alcohol. It's a place of stepping into this beautiful life.
Yes. Yes. My life is, yeah. I mean, opening up the store has totally changed my life, but in so many other aspects as well. Like I said, I've met so many wonderful people. My relationship with my children have changed. And my siblings, it's changed. So I'm a lot more present, which is probably the biggest thing that I notice about myself is that I don't react the same way I used to, which was just this spontaneous outburst. I have 3 adult sons, and raising adult children isn't always easy.
Amen.
Yeah, yeah. They're great kids, and they have, amazing, they've done really well for themselves. But sometimes I just kind of shake my head a little bit and go, "Oh, great." And I've learned through this process to step back and not speak as much because they are adults. Where before I would just tell them exactly how I felt, and sometimes I still do that, but I realize it, and then I'll have to go back and apologize or something. Where again, before it was just me, just this outburst, and I was right. But now it's just I'm more present and able to look at the bigger picture in a calmer manner. And I don't think, people who are considering drinking, they probably don't realize that that's one of the greatest benefits. I mean, there's so many reasons. Health wise. It's like I thought, I'm 63. And when I was going through menopause,
Mhm.
I thought that the things that I was feeling was from menopause. I don't think so anymore. It was all alcohol. I probably, if I wasn't drinking during menopause, during the time I might have been going through menopause, I probably wouldn't have had as many effects.
Yeah, I
Um,
can guarantee it because for me, my journey was kind of simultaneous, and I also went to nutrition school very early. And
right.
what we see now with the effects of alcohol, and we're finally starting to talk about it, is that there is more impact with the amount of alcohol that we drink as we age, and there is a direct effect to our hormones and all of those things that we're experiencing. And I think that one of the most powerful gifts is to start to question, like, wow, is my life better without alcohol? What is possible if I were to take a break, if I were to stop, if I were to walk into Kindred Spirits and say, maybe today's the day I'll explore, is there a community? Is there a place? Is there an opportunity for me here to find out more about being the best version of myself? And we're just about the same age. I just turned 64. And, I have to say that I feel more alive and more excited about the next chapter than ever before. And I don't think I would have felt that way uh,
Yeah.
had I continued to live in that cycle of where life was just sort of good enough.
Right, right. And I guess that's what I would have to say to people who are thinking about not wanting to drink anymore. You can have a life with no alcohol, and it's going to be a better life. There's going to be so much more opportunities for you. There's a huge community out there. But yeah, that's just where my journey has taken me through sober sober sis, and just meeting all these incredible women like you.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that. And it's this, you know, so important to highlight. And thank you for that. The reality is that each of us as individuals have the opportunity to share the good things that happen to us on this journey. And I'm seeing so many people, and women in particular. I feel like this place is often saturated with women who are really stepping out and driving this movement forward. And I love that. But ordinary people are doing extraordinary things because they are passionate from within and they are living with purpose. And so I think for anyone who is wondering if this is right for them, I think just follow through. And I love that you started with a pop-up, because not anyone, but many of us could choose to do that, to do one event or a few events and see how it goes and learn and grow.
Yes. I talked to somebody recently who, in another town, they were just thinking, I could just do special events. And I'm like, absolutely. She goes, I don't want to have a brick and mortar or anything, but I could just do special events here in my community and give that way. And I'm absolutely. So there's so many different ways that people can give back.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and for sharing with us what you do and how it has really connected you to your inner self, your higher power, and to the community and beyond that community, Marlys. So thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you for having me. I so much appreciate it.
Yes. And before you go, please say where people can find you. And then you have a special offer for our audience.
I do. So you can find our website at www.kindredspirits with an S at the end .store. And if you go on and choose to buy something from our store, you can get 15% off. And the promo code is Ditch the Drink. And that will go on until October 31st. Thank you. I appreciate it so much, Terry.
I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.